Hello and welcome to Sama, Sisters Against Mental Abuse. And today we have on our show Latoya, who will be sharing her story with us. Latoya's story is so huge. There's so many different details, and she is continuing to deal with this person in court. So I was careful to be sensitive about that, and I hope you all will as well. So without further ado, here is my interview with Latoya. Hello, Latoya.
Hi, how are you, Misty?
Good. Thanks for
Good.
coming on the show today. I'm excited to have you. I
Yes,
know that
me
we
too.
talked a little
Busy.
bit, but we haven't talked about all of the details. So I know that there's a lot to go over.
Yes.
So I want to start by asking where you met this person and the person in question.
So, I I had scheduled a trip to go to Disney World with my son, and I was like trying to get ready. It was around my birthday, and I was trying to get ready for that. And I needed a barber that was closer because my son's barber is like 25 minutes from us. So I said, I need something closer. So I was short on time. And so a friend of mine recommended this barbershop where the person in question worked. And so we met there. So he wasn't my son's barber. It was another guy that was cutting my son's hair, but it was a couple of times where his barber, that barber would be busy. So the person in question asked me like if it was okay if he cut my son's hair, and I was like, okay, do you know how to cut? And he was like, yeah. So I was like, okay, sure. Like just don't mess his hair up. And so he did good, and so we left, and I came back for another haircut, and the barber that usually cuts my son hair, he was busy again. So I said, well, where's the boy that cut his hair before? And he said, oh, he's not in today. So I said, all right, fine. So I just didn't get his haircut. I came back like maybe a week later, and I guess the barber that usually cuts my son's hair told the other, the person in question, oh, she was looking for you. So when I came, he was like, oh, are you were looking for me? Here's my card or whatever. And that's how the communication happened because his Instagram page was wrong on his card. And I was like, yeah, you're asking people to follow you, but your Instagram is wrong. And then a conversation ensued from there, and I'm really not too sure of how we started talking on a regular, but we started talking on a regular after that.
Okay, so it was like before you knew it, you guys kind of built a rapport, and then was it like a friendship, or did things kind of go fast at this point, or
I want to say yes and no because um yes and no, because we hung out a couple of times, but I was not looking for a relationship. I mean, I had gotten out of marriage 4 years prior, and I really was not looking to be in any type of relationship. I just was enjoying my freedom, and so I don't really. It kind of happened fast in that way. Like I was in a relationship before I knew it, and but we dated for maybe like 3 or 4 months, and that was fun. It didn't feel like um, it was not. It was free. It was fun. So we would hang out and do little cute date ideas, and that was fun. And so I was enjoying that, and it just went, I guess you can say that after the 3 or 4 months it went kind of fast, and like I had gotten pregnant with my daughter, and it just went fast after that.
oh, okay, so you were dating for 3 or 4 months, and then you were pregnant around that time, or was there more time?
No, about the third or fourth. It was like, okay, so I met him in, I'll give you dates, October of 2019, because my birthday is September 24th, so that's when I originally got my son's haircut or whatever. So around October we, started talking. And then February is when I found out I was pregnant. So November, December, January, fourth month. Yeah.
Okay, so then like what was this person? What I feel like we got to give him a name, like a nickname. What we gonna
Let's
call
call
him?
him. Let's call him the barber.
The bar. Okay, good. The barber. Okay. So
Mhm.
what attracted you to this barber? What kind of qualities did he have? What was he like?
So originally I did not like him. I thought he was very talkative. I don't really like men who like chat like women, and he kind of chatted like women.
Mhm.
And I didn't like him. And I think like he became something that I liked. Like I remember him asking me like what I liked in a man, and I would tell him, not thinking anything of it because I didn't feel like I was going to date this person. I wasn't attracted to him. But then he started becoming like, I told him I really don't like you. You talk too much. And so I saw him become more quiet, and then he would be like really attentive. So um he would do like small gestures, like, let me give you something, for instance. Like I remember we went bowling and we had like a really good time, just like being, it was like kind of like a kiddish, like free thing. And I think that's what drew me into him. And then he kind of told me about his life story, and then I kind of felt bad, which now I know is trauma bonding. Um, and it was just like he just was a nice guy, like very nice in the beginning. Like it was easy to fall and like or love for him because he was like becoming what I wanted, which I told him the things that I wanted.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, so you told him this is what I like and he started doing those
mhm.
things. And did you notice that? Did you say this is weird? Like I just told him what I like and now he's doing these things. Why isn't he talkative anymore? For example.
No, because I remember when I told him that I didn't notice, because when I told him he was talking, he said, "Oh, well, I'm really not talkative. I'm really reserved." I was like, "Well, in the barbershop, you really talk a lot." And he's like, "No, I'm really reserved." And I was like, "Okay." And then I noticed like we started talking like all day, every day. We would talk while I was at work. We would talk like I would used to do a side job, so do the side job, and just about just like really free. I told him I didn't really want anything, so we were kind of just like enjoying each other's time. And so I think it just momentum built because we were building a rapport with each other. But I hadn't even noticed because I wasn't paying attention to him like that. So it kind of snuck in there really easy and really good before I could notice.
Okay. So at this point, it's about 4 months and you find yourself pregnant. And then what happens next is this when he starts to kind of show you who he is? Do things change? Is he supportive, at this stage or
I think he started doing, so red flags for me started like I looking back, I noticed they kind of started within that time period of dating, but I just didn't pay attention to him. So, for instance, I remember one time watching a movie. We were like watching a movie, and he was like, "Let me see your phone," and I was like, "Okay, fine." I gave him the phone, and he was going through my phone, and he was deleting like numbers. He was deleting people from Instagram, and I wasn't paying attention. I was watching a movie, but I had noticed he was on my phone for a really long time. So I'm like, "What are you doing on my phone?" And I grabbed my phone, and he's like deleting stuff. And I'm like, "Well, why are you doing that? Like, why would you take my phone and delete people out of my phone?" And so he said like, "You don't need to be talking to certain people." So like I was like, what is he talking about? I've never been in a relationship where someone, you know, told me who I can and cannot talk to. That was just never something I experienced in a relationship, but I kind of brushed it off because again, I was not thinking we were going to be anything serious. I was like, whatever. I'm just enjoying the moment. But that
okay.
was that. And then, um,
So is it
so-
so that was something from the beginning when he went through your phone, were you already pregnant or was that like at the beginning?
oh no, that was like in the beginning, maybe like second, third month, like we were
Mhm.
just dating. I
Mhm.
wasn't pregnant at that time. I didn't pay attention to it, but I feel like that was a red flag. Obviously, because he had some type of insecurity issue that you would be going through my phone, deleting people. And there was another thing, which was a major issue and kind of caused a lot of, I want to say it was the main thing, but my son's godfather is like an excellent godfather and like really good friends.
Mhm.
And he wanted me to like delete him out of my life. And I'm like, I just can't do that because, he's been in my son's life since birth. And I'm like, I can't just up and delete someone out of my life. And it was a real big deal for him. And I would have to like tell my son's godfather we'll give him a name too. We'll call him, I don't know, Black. I don't know. Like
We
he
could
would
just
be,
call him Godfather. Like that's cool.
oh yeah, let's call him Godfather. He would tell me like he didn't want him around or whatever, and I would be like, why? And he's just like, yeah, I just don't want him around. And I remember one time he took my godfather took my son and Barber. He took my son, and I think he left his phone home. And I was calling him to tell him to bring my son home, and he wasn't answering. So I was getting worried. I thought maybe like they had gotten into an accident or something because that he had never done that before. And so Barbara got really upset and was like, "Oh, you need to call the police. He probably kidnapped him." I'm like, what is he talking about? Why is he thinking like
What?
that? Yeah. So when I just kept calling, and then I was like, okay, let me call because maybe they did get in an accident. Let me just have them, search to see if they need hospital. I don't know. Like, so I did call the police, and I was like, listen, I think something may have happened because he's never done this before. Because now it's hours later, and eventually Godfather came home, and Barber like sized him up, and they were actually getting ready to get in a fight. And so I had to like tell Godfather like, okay, listen, let's let this blow over. So we're gonna not like hang out. Like, we'll just let it blow over. We won't talk. And then you can see, you know, your godson whenever you want. You just go pick him up from school and then you drop him back off, or you can just drop him back off here and he can come up the stairs. So we're gonna try to like eliminate the you know, whatever he was feeling, the threat that he felt from the Godfather. But
So
that
you
didn't
were
help.
already trying to like maneuver things
Mm.
around him to not make him upset.
And I didn't even notice. I didn't even notice that I
Mm.
was doing it.
So wait, what? So at this time you weren't. Let's go back to when he found out that you were pregnant. What was it like? Was he supportive? Um,
He was supportive. He was happy. It was his first child, so he wanted a child. But he told me, I was, shocked because he said he couldn't have kids. So I'm like, okay, what happened? I thought you had like fragments and stuff. And I was like, clearly you don't. Like, I'm pregnant. And he was excited. He was happy.
so he told. Wait a minute.
But
He
I
told
think
you that
that
he
made him
couldn't.
more possessive.
Wait. He said that he couldn't have children. He told you that.
So that was a story that he said. He said he couldn't have children. Um, like when we were talking about like if you wanted kids, talking about, we was talking about marriage and everything. So he was like he can't have kids. He had an incident where he had um injured it in one of his scrotums or something like that, and he had fragments in it. I don't know if that story is true, but that's what he told me. And so I was like, oh, okay. But he said he would love to have kids, but he just couldn't have them. So he made it like he was adamant that he could not have kids.
Mm,
So I believed him. I mean, I didn't have a reason not to.
mm-hmm. So, okay, so he was happy and excited about this baby. What was the pregnancy like? What was he like during the pregnancy, so to
Oh,
speak?
it was awful. That's where most of the abuse happened, like while I was pregnant. Like the most of the mental, we've even had physical altercations. It was all during my pregnancy. So
What was
yeah.
like the first thing that you remember? Like when, I guess, because I want to ask, when did he start showing you who he really was? Like when did it really come out? When did he let everything all hang out?
I don't think he ever let it all hang out all at once. So like certain things would come out. Like it was a day um I got off of work and I was home and I was with my son, and he had, I don't know what his issue was, but he had like started this name went on this rant of like name calling, like b hole slut, just like all the names you could think of. And I was like, okay, maybe you shouldn't be with me. And then I blocked him, but he was making up numbers to like continue to call me
Mm.
these names. And he was like, um what had gotten me was he had said he would beat my A. And so I was like, okay, that's enough.
Oh.
I was like, okay, we'll do it. You keep harassing me, you keep calling, do it. So I was like, listen, come do it. And this is my mistake. I was like, listen, I'm gonna go because at this point I'm at fight mode now, and I'm like. I dropped my son off and I was like, I want you to do it. I said, you keep harassing me, you keep calling, you keep texting, do it. And that was the first instance, like we had like a where he hit me and I like had to defend myself.
Oh
He
my
came
goodness.
outside like ready to fight. I didn't think that he was really gonna come outside wanting to fight, but he came outside wanting to fight.
Like, do you remember what it was over or?
It was over the stuff with the guy. He wanted me to remove the Godfather, and I was like, I just cannot do that. And oh, you're dating him, you must like him, and like he's been in my life for so long, I just cannot like I can rid him from my life, but that would be unfair to my son because my son's dad is not active in his life, and that was the only dad that he knew. So I don't think he could understand that because he didn't have parents. So that was an issue. That was like a really big issue for him.
So he would not let this go. Um,
So crazy, he still hasn't let it go. He said something like in 2021 in reference to the Godfather.
wow, yeah,
So
they they don't let things go ever. What
ever
so when did you realize that something was really wrong?
that day, because that day it was an altercation when he hit me. Of course I defended myself and we were fighting, and I'm like, he had like I had scratched him, so he had like a scratch on his neck and it was bleeding. And so someone had called the police. So when the police came, I said, listen, I just want my stuff. I want to be done with him. I was like, I've never been in a relationship like this. I don't want anything else to do with him. Just let him know and tell him to give me my keys. And so when they went to get my keys, he said, oh, she hit me, and showed them the scratch. And so they arrested me for a scratch. And I'm like, well, he hit
Wow.
me. Like, why aren't you guys taking him? Like, he hit me. Why do I had never been in jail, I had never been in trouble, I had never been in a holding cell, nothing. Only thing I've ever had was parking tickets. At that moment, I was like, this is not gonna work for me
Mhm.
because like you're ruining my reputation now. Like I've never been inside of a prison. I cried so bad. I think I was pregnant at that point too. I cried so bad, and I was like, I'm done. So I had when that situation finished, and I was released, I had went home. I blocked every number. I blocked every Instagram, Facebook, everything I could think of, any and everything I could think of. And I started getting phone calls from like other numbers. I blocked those numbers. As the phone calls were coming in from different numbers, I knew it was him. I would block them. And he called me from my son's barber, the one original one that was cutting his hair. He called me from his number. And I was like, okay, why is he calling me? So I answered because I know the number. I see he saved in my phone. I said, what's going on? And he was like, oh, it's me. I hung up, blocked him.
Wow.
He kept calling, kept calling till he wore me down. And I was like, what do you want? And then back in the cycle. He used my son a lot. Oh, I love Joshua. I want to see Joshua. I'll sit outside. Like that's how he snuck back in. Yep. I like looking back, I don't even think I wasn't there. Like I don't even remember like being cognizant, like having my whereabouts to say. I kind of was just like rolling through it. Like I felt very confused. Like I got one person, he was really charming after, really nice, really catering to, what I wanted. And then it was this person. And I don't think I could decipher. I wasn't cognizant. Like I couldn't figure out. I remember like asking myself, like, is this him or is the person that I've known before this, is that him? Like, what is it? And then I remember trying to find like, did I do something? Or like, should I have cut it off my friend? Like just questioning myself, but I don't remember being like really aware or being myself. I think at that point I was just going through the motions because he was really like what I wanted in the beginning.
Okay, so you're back in the cycle. What caused you to get out of that cycle? Because after he had you put in jail, you got wrapped up in it again. What made you leave that cycle that restarted?
It was like reoccurring. And and to backtrack a little bit, when I was taken in custody, he like was there. He came to the because they take you, they don't take you to like a facility. They kind of let you sit at the police station until someone comes to pick you up. So he was there at the police station and telling the police, giving them notes. Oh, tell her, get my number, tell her I'm sorry, I never meant for this to happen. Like, and I'm just like, I don't want anything. Like, I don't want his number. I don't want anything. I just want him to leave me alone. And he even showed up. Okay, so they came in, the facility came and got me, and they took me to the facility. And so when they released me on my own recognizance, because I had never been in trouble, he was there. He was outside. I had to run back inside and tell him, like, he's here. Can you please ask for him to leave? So he was there outside. So I forgot that part. And then that's when I got home, the call started happening. And then of course he, lured me, like he asked about my son, and they were sitting in the hallway, and then we kind of talked about the situation I was back in. Um, the next thing that transpired after that was he vandalized my car. We had went to a doctor's appointment. The doctor was like praising me, like, "Oh, she's beautiful. You're doing really good. The pregnancy is going really well, despite all of what was going on, because there were like arguments in between there. There was mental abuse in between, but like the next big thing was the vandalism of my car, in which like he got, when the doctor said that, he was like, "Oh, it's my seed." Like he got jealous, and he's like, "It's my seed." And so I was embarrassed. I was like, "What is it? Why would you say that?" The man is just like, the doctor's just saying that the pregnancy is going well. Why do you need accolades, or why do you feel to insert yourself to try to get an accolade? And so we were having a conversation in the car. It was it was communication going on. Voices were raised, but it was not like physical or anything. We were just talking. And he just got out the car and started kicking the car. And I'm sitting in the car like shocked, like, what? Why is he doing that? And I just drove off. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna call the police. Make, if it was any damage, I'm just gonna report the damage. And so as I'm sitting, I drive off. I go to my parking lot of my home, and I'm sitting there, and I'm just talking to the police. And I'm like, I don't know if any damage is there. I haven't gotten out the car yet. But as I'm sitting there talking to the police, I see him come in my parking lot with a metal pipe. And so I'm like, he's here. And so I try to crank up the car, like stick the key and crank it back up. And he just runs over and starts vandalizing my car while I'm in the car. And so I just back up and leave. And I'm like, he just vandalized my car. I need a police officer here. Like, he broke the front windshield. He broke the all along the passenger side was like scraped. He had broke the passenger's back, not the front seat, but the back seat. That window was broken. Had my headlights were broken on both the front and back headlights on the passenger side. And there was like, I ended up my insurance ended up paying, it was like $3,000 worth of damage on that one side. And as I was in the police station, he was like sending me texts like, "Oh, I'm not done. And tell Godfather he's a dead man. Now he's threatening him." I'm like, I'm just showing the police, like, look, like something is wrong with him. Like, he's still going on. The police is just, as he's writing it, the police is writing it down. And after I left the police station making it, because I think I was in about 4 or 5 hours making a police report. And as I'm walking out, a girl calls my phone and was like, "Oh, this is Barber's aunt. Hey, did you press charges?" And I'm like, "How did you get this number?" And she, "Oh, Barber
What?
gave it to me." Yeah, and I'm like, "Don't call my phone anymore." And I hung up, and I told the police, like, "Yeah, somebody said this is his aunt, and they just called my phone." And the police was like, "Just don't answer. If you get any calls, don't answer." So I guess he must have found out that, you know, he had, a warrant out for his arrest, and they picked him up, and he went to jail. He called me from jail and asked me like not to press charges and stuff. And I was, at that point, I was going full force with it, but it was something my mom said to me that made me drop the charges, because I was going full force. I was like, no, he needs to be penalized. He needs to learn from this. He can't go around vandalizing the car. He was facing 5 years. And I don't know if he got in contact with my mom or something. I think he got in contact with her because she did tell me like, oh, he was saying that he loves you, he loves you, he loves you. And she's like, that's all he kept saying. And I'm just like, she was like, y'all just need to drop the charges and y'all just need to go to counseling. And I was like, you think that's like what's best? Like, you think? And she was like, yeah, I think you guys, have a baby on the way. You guys just need to drop the charges and go to counselor. So it came from my mom. I'm like, okay, maybe she's right. And so that's what made me drop the charges. Hmm.
Since you mentioned your mom, what was your support system like at this point? Were you telling her and other family members or friends what was going on? What was their reaction? Did you have people?
No,
Well, it sounds like you had people that were encouraging you to stay with this man. Did you have any other friends that, any other outside influences that helped you or discouraged you either way?
Godfather was like, leave him alone. Something's not right. Like, it's something that's not right. But at this point, I'm like, I love this person, so it's just like you're trying to make it work as much as you can because you bring in a life into this world. I already have one failed marriage, so that was weighing on me. I was like, do I bring another child in this world and be a single mom? But Godfather was like, no, don't like. But my mom, she didn't like him at first because she didn't like his religion, but once she talked to him, I could tell she kind of liked him. He's charming, so of course you're gonna like him at first conversation. And so I think whatever he's that conversation was between them, that's what made her give me that advice. And my mom was in an abusive relationship for like 20 years. So I don't think, she doesn't view abuse the way, someone who wasn't in an abusive relationship, they don't view it. It's kind of like normal to her because she had been in it for so long. So I think she thought, well, I can't think for her, but I just know that she had been in an abusive relationship with my dad for like 20 years. And I know that it was kind of normal. I mean, 20 years of that, it had to be a part of her normal. She kind of encouraged it in the beginning. Hmm.
So there was just Godfather and your mom that knew what was happening? Did you have any other friends that knew all about these crazy situations and like the way he was talking to you and the incidents with your car and him? Did other people know this aside from Godfather and your mom?
No, my mom didn't know the extent of it because I didn't want to tell her. She only knew that instant where he vandalized my car because he called and told her. That was the only way she found out because I didn't tell her that he vandalized my car and I was pressing charges. I didn't want to. I didn't know where the relationship was going, so I didn't want to paint a bad picture of him. Me being protective to my family because my family's unforgiving. Like once they figure out like you're not, they don't. It's no like coming back. So Godfather knew, and then there was another friend that I had who she knew like the ins and outs of like each conversation and every time he would call names and um she knew verbatim like each specific event.
And so was
But
she supportive of you? Was she supportive of you leaving, or did she think that you should stay or
I think she, if I can't remember what her advice was before the vandalism, but I know once the vandalism happened, she was like, no, this is crazy. This is not normal. No, you need to get out of this. Um, so once that happened, I can't remember what her stance was in the beginning. I mean, I remember we went on double dates with her and her guy a couple of times. So her original thought process of him that was that he was nice. But as the events transpire, I can't remember if she ever gave me any advice specifically saying yes or no, leave him. But I know once the vandalism happened, she was like, "No, you got to get out of this. You got to figure a way out of this."
Okay, okay. And so you pretty much had to be your own support system when it came to leaving him. What did that look like? What was the final straw? What helped you to get out of that relationship? And how did you cope once you decided to sever ties?
So I was living in my own apartment at that time, but I don't know if after that, I dropped the charges and then he agreed to go to counseling. Um, we were trying to like work on it. And I think it was a period where I had to move from my apartment and I stayed with him for a bit. It was an incident that happened there, where I was trying to he had called me a B and I was like, yeah, I'm out of here. And I didn't say anything to him. I just went to go try to pack something like underwears and stuff for me and my son. And he was like taunting me. And then that day, he was taunting me with his phone. And again, like I was trying to get him away from me. So I like picked up something off the counter to spray to like deter him from getting so close because he was really close. And so I was like, I think it was Febreze or something on the counter, and I sprayed it. And so I was like, get away from me. I don't know why it didn't click on to just leave the apartment, but I kept like searching for like clothes for us to leave because I wasn't planning on coming back there the next day. And so when I sprayed that, that triggered him, and then we got into our well, he just slapped me, and I just grabbed my I remember he did it in front of my son, and I grabbed my son's hand, and I just left, and I remember like that was it for me. When I went outside, he told me to give him his key. I gave him his key, and I walked to my car, and I got in the car, and I was like, yeah, this is it for me. And that not that day, the next day, my sister helped me move myself out, and my sister didn't have space and my mom didn't have space, so we had to end up staying at Godfather's house. And I was like, yeah, this is done for me. And so for me, that was the day that the relationship ended. But it was still ongoing because then I still was pregnant. So when I got another apartment, he was he came over to like help with the baby. And I remember something happened at that apartment. He came over to help with the baby and he wanted to argue about stuff that had transpired. And I'm just like freshly had a baby. And I asked him to leave and he wouldn't leave. And it made me really nervous because, again, like we were in that other apartment and I was trying to leave and it ended up into an altercation. And I was there by myself. It was no one with me, just me and the kids. And I was nervous. And I had went and grabbed a knife. I was like, get out of here. Like, get out. You need to leave. Get out of here. And that triggered him. And I tried to call the police, and then he ended up choking me, and then we had an altercation. And I didn't call the police that night. I think I just snapped. I was like, I'm done with this. If this man doesn't leave me alone, like somebody's gonna end up somewhere because I'm done with the abuse. And he called and told the police that I tried to kill him, and had
Hmm.
me put yeah, like he said I tried to lunge at him and stab him with the knife. And all I did was I didn't lunge at him. I just showed him the knife so it can kind of scare him. And he he had me arrested and I had got arrested again. I remember in that place I was like I was done. I had nothing left. Like at that point I was mhm. Yep.
Okay.
And that was like 2 months after I had it was 2 months postpartum. Now, my pregnancy after I suffered from postpartum um really bad. Like I just like couldn't like I would go through like every day getting up, taking the kids to school, taking my son to school, being with the baby, but I was delirious. I was having anxiety attacks. Um and I remember being really restless because I would be with her all day and all night and then newborns they don't really sleep at night. So I wasn't really getting much sleep and I just remember being mentally drained, and I was like, "Yeah, this is done. Like, we don't need to co-parent. We need to figure out how to go through the courts." And that was it. And I remember he dropped those charges, and we tried to figure out how to co-parent. And the co-parenting it wasn't working because he kept wanting to like he would ask me, "Oh." He would say things like, "I said, can you watch the baby? I need to go do X, Y, and Z." Oh, I'm not watching the baby so you can go pitch wool. And I'm like, pitch woo. I had never heard that before. I was like, what does that mean, pitch woo? And it was like, go date another man. I'm like, why do you care? We're not together. Like, we're just trying to co-parent. Like, I need you to watch the baby. Oh, you're not really going to where you got to go. And then he just will make co-parenting difficult. I'm like, okay, so we're not in a relationship. We can't co-parent. Um, so let's just go through the courts. And so he felt like I was trying to like take custody of the baby. So then he, got a lawyer and was trying to like come after me for custody. It was bad. It was just terrible. But so what got me out of that, I was in when I was at the place and I had my baby and she was a newborn. I remember I was having really bad anxiety, especially at night. I would feel like the cops was after me. So like every time I heard a police car, I would jump up out of my sleep. I could be dead asleep. I could hear a siren and I would jump up out of my bed to check my window. And at that point I had called like a hotline. I was like, I feel like I'm like traumatized. And I had moved. The hotline had started helping me. I had there was an incident where I had to get a final restraining order because he came to my daughter's school and then he lunged at me, told me he was gonna f me up. And I was like, well, it's time for me to get a restraining order. I got the restraining order. That was the second one. Um, I got the restraining order, and I had just kept pressing. Like, I feel like that's the thing you have to keep, no matter how, you know, deep you're into a situation, you just have to keep pressing until you get out. And I felt like that was what I was doing. I just kept pressing towards out. It didn't matter if I took like two steps back, I was still pressing towards out. And eventually I just, no, now it's no contact. We co-parent. We have a parenting time situation where he picks up his daughter from the police station and there's no contact whatsoever. But even after, once everything was done with that and I was in a safe place, it was, I was still having anxiety, so I had to go seek therapy to talk about like what was going on in depth, to try to like start to feel like I'm okay, like I don't have to look over my shoulder, or I don't have to worry about someone doing something to me. And it worked. Therapy worked. Prayer worked. Um, so it's like a process. It's not like you decide that you're gonna be out, because they're not gonna let you just out. That's not an option. It's never, you're just out. But you have to keep trying. I kept trying, and eventually, I am where I am. I'm out. I'm at peace, and I don't have to worry about anybody fighting me, or mentally draining me, or calling me names, or any of that stuff. So.
So, from what I understand, you are still kind of dealing with him, trying to drag you into court.
Yes. So he's still. So okay. Once I got the restraining order, there was no contact for 6 months. That was from October of 2020 till April of 2021. So during that time, I was able to go to counseling. Really pray. Get myself together because I don't have to deal with this person anymore. And April of 2021, they relaxed the restraints, to be able to pass a note to EOPD, East Orange Police Department, about the care of our daughter. And he said he wasn't going to do that. He didn't want to do that. And well, the judge said you really don't have you don't really have an option here. That's what she feel comfortable with, because I didn't feel comfortable with any other type of communication. I didn't want any direct communication whatsoever. But so, the judge put it in place, and he started emailing me. Like, instead of going through the police, he started emailing me. And I tried to tell the police, but the way the judge wrote it, he put electronic communication in it, so the police couldn't enforce it. So they told me to go back down there and make them write it plain, so it's enforceable by the police, because they don't really understand. If you write it electronic communication, they think that it might be okay. But I told them, like the judge told me, that was not okay. Of course, they weren't there at the court, so they don't know. But he went and filed a temporary restraining order saying that I was trying to get him arrested. that I was trying to get him falsely arrested. So that was the first one. And that one was dismissed because he didn't show up for that. And then he went and filed another one in October. So he's still doing things to like using whatever he has left, whatever he feels like he has left to try and, keep me bound because he had used that tactic before and it worked. So I guess he think it's going to work this time. But sticking to my guns, staying level headed is very important. Not letting him get me to a place where I feel like I have to fight or I'm in a place where my emotions are running high and I'm having anxiety. Um, so he still does stuff, but I think I changed my mental, so it's not having the same effect.
Yeah, I was talking to a psychotherapist recently, and she did talk about legal abuse. Like, we didn't put that on the episode, but there is so many different things that they try to do to control the situation and keep you
Hmm.
putting energy into it, and that's just one of them. Having you go back and forth in court, you go to court, he not there, like trying to just control things, and I'm it gets old at some point.
Yeah,
um
and I mean, we could sit here for hours. Like I just gave you the short version, but oh, so much has happened in so little short time. I don't even realize. Like I say, when I think back on it, I try not to think about it too much. But when I have to explain it to someone or I start talking about it, and it's like, dang, I really went through all of that. Like it doesn't seem real, like unless I start talking about it, and I'm like, wow, that was a lot. It was a lot in a short span of time. And I'm just thankful like I didn't lose my mind or, nothing. I'm still here, and eventually I learned to stand my ground. I learned to not to react to what he was doing. I learned to respond. That was a big thing in therapy for me, not allowing him to get me to an emotional state where I would react, but I would respond to what he was doing. And that helped me a lot, especially with the legality of stuff. It helped me with that.
So we're about to close out here, but I gotta say, like, you are amazing. I mean, you got yourself out of this by yourself. It's so hard to get out of, and I've seen a lot of people that don't get out of it, or they become comfortable, or they keep thinking that they'll leave. But you didn't sound, it doesn't sound like you had a lot of support, but you still knew that something was wrong. And so I commend you for pulling yourself out of that and sticking to your guns. Do you have any advice for other Black women that might be in a mentally or even a physically abusive relationship?
Yeah, like so pay attention. Like a lot of time, like me, I wasn't aware. I was just having a good time and riding the wave. But pay attention when you're dealing with men. Like it's really important when you're dating and when you're courting and you're getting to know someone. Pay attention to like everything. And if he starts to call you names or starts to, snoop through your stuff, that's not what you want in a man. You have to, cut it off there. Don't allow, because you'll end up in a situation like me, but pay attention to the red flags. Be aware, know what you want, spend time with yourself and no don't settle. Get exactly what you want. If the man that you're with is not giving you what you want, then cut it off. You're not obligated to be with him. Get what you want out of the deal. I mean, most of the time they say you get one turn, you get one try. So try to make the best decision that you can. And if you find yourself in that type of situation, know that you deserve better. And if you to the point where you're so broken, I used to be so broken, but I would still stand in the mirror and I would say affirmations to myself. I would say, like, I'm beautiful, I'm worthy, I'm valuable, I'm pretty. Like, because that was the things he used to say. Nobody's gonna want you. You have two children. I said, my children are great. Some men will want me with two children. Like I would just whatever he would say, I would try to reverse it and make it a positive to try to keep my mind positive because if you allow them to beat you down so low, then they can continue to abuse. Try not to get under that. And yeah, stay woke because these men are like sheep's and wolves clothing. And stay woke. Be aware.
Thank you for being on.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate this platform. I think that this needs to be discussed way more. Like I said, when I was going through that, I had learned some friends had went through certain situations with abuse that I had never known about, and it's just not discussed enough. So I'm thankful to you for the platform to be able to talk about it and shed light on it.
And that concludes our episode for today. Thank you for joining us. If you are a Black woman who has a story to share about mental abuse, whether with family, romantic partner, friendship, or you are a Black woman in the mental health field, please reach out to us, samatogethernow@gmail.com. We are on Facebook as Sisters Against Mental Abuse, and we are also on Instagram at Sama Together Now. Thank you for joining us, and remember, mental abuse is abuse.